currently run an online business, which I've been able to scale to multiple six figures. I've published a short story, released a single for my music, and I'm currently working on a novel. But sometimes the chronic illness is chronic illnessing, and that makes things really, really difficult to deal with. So how do I run a business and also work on these creative hobbies while also having a chronic illness? This has been a highly requested topic. I know so many of us are struggling with these issues, and it's one of those things that I really don't think you can understand until you go through it. So today, I wanted to break this down and share a little bit about what I do to make the day-to-day manageable and bearable and still do the things I want to do as much as I can within reason so that I can be as happy as possible and live the life I want to live. Of course, mandatory disclaimer, this is not medical advice. These are just some things that I have found to be really helpful for me, specifically in the context of running a business and having time to work on my writing and things like that. And some of these are tips that you don't really hear about very often, so I am excited to share these. Tip number 1 is to include buffer time in every single one of your deadlines, okay? Especially if you're like me and you do some client work. I know a lot of you here following me are freelance writers and copywriters. Always buffer your deadlines. This has been something I had to learn in a huge way in 2024. Back in 2021, I had a different chronic illness, which was a lot more painful on a day-to-day basis. Like I was in a lot of physical pain. I had trouble eating, things like that. But I could still cognitively function really well. Like I could sit at my laptop and work. Like it didn't really bother me in that way. Compare that to 2024 when I got hit with another chronic illness that really, really manifested with severe, like debilitating fatigue. I had to change it up, right? This wasn't the type of illness where I could just work and push through and all that. I literally could not work if I pushed myself too hard. I would have severe brain fog. It was really difficult. And I realized I'm going to have to change the way I'm going about doing things if I want to do this. And I want it to be something sustainable that I can continue, which I do. It's pretty important stuff. Now, I've improved a lot since early 2024 when I got hit with this particular chronic illness. So what I kind of do now is ask myself, if I had a really severe flare-up that took me out, right, debilitated me, I couldn't work, how many days off would I need to take? Or how many days of like bare minimum 30 minutes to an hour a day work would I have to take? Take that time frame, maybe for you, let's say it is 2 days or 3 days, and add that time plus probably a little bit extra to be safe into your deadlines, okay? So if you think that you can get a piece of client work done this Friday and today's Monday, set the deadline for next Friday, okay? Good clients don't care. They're not expecting like you to turn around things immediately just like that. Some clients do. Certain projects require more urgency, but I guess another tip then would be don't specialize in a type of business that requires a lot of urgency all the time. But anyway, the main takeaway here is add that buffer time to your deadlines. Seriously. It shouldn't be a big deal to the vast majority of clients. And also for your own internal processes. If you're like me and you also have like a coaching and online course business, give yourself longer than you think you need. Like I just recently set up a new product for my online course business. It's like a little mini template product. And back in the day, that would have taken me like 2 days of pushing myself to set up like completely everything, right? Now I give myself minimum a week, maybe a week and a half to do the whole entire thing, including all the landing pages, email automations, and all the things that go into that. So I would invite you to think about your worst flare-ups or the time frames that you struggle with your chronic illness and how much buffer time that would translate to for your client projects or your own personal projects. Tip number 2, this is so important. Practice business minimalism. Be ruthless with your time. Back in the day when I started my business, way back in 2015, I would answer every single email. I would answer every single DM. I would spend so much time on it because I wanted to make sure like I was getting everything done and like people pleasing all the time. That's a whole other issue for a whole other video. But yeah, I burnt myself out doing that. And I realized after tracking how much time I was spending doing that, it was hours of my week. At this point with my health, I do not work more than 20 to 25 hours a week. Like I just don't. That is my absolute maximum. And I'm not going to spend 2 to 3 hours of that very precious time doing those little tasks that aren't actually moving the needle for my business, right? What I want to encourage you to do is do the least amount of things that drive the most results. I'm sure you may have heard the quote that 20% of what you do is going to drive 80% of the results. I have definitely found that to be true. So take a little inventory, a little audit of your business, and think about what is actually driving the biggest results. Can you cut out anything? Can you outsource it to a virtual assistant? Really be ruthless with your time and track your time if you haven't already. See how much time you are spending on certain projects, because you really want to be intentional with your time, especially if you have a chronic illness that sort of dictates the amount of hours you can work per week. It is so, so important. Tip number 3 is to create systems/templates/processes, and then actually go and use those every single day as much as possible. When you work minimal hours, you need the shortcuts. You need the pre-built processes to save you time. That way you have more time to just rest, recover, relax, account for those days where you may not be feeling well. So, so important. So many people don't do this, myself included, before I got sick, because I was just like, it's going to take too much time to set up processes and templates. I don't have time. I'm just going to do all this stuff anyway. That was a really bad idea. These days, I templatize things. I create set standard processes so that I don't have to, for example, write a brand new email reply to every single person. I have canned responses that I copy, paste, and change out a couple things. And those things really, really add up. I also feel like it's really important for me in what I do as a course creator to help people in this way, which is why when I totally reimagined and updated my killer cold emailing program for freelance writers in 2024, I created pre-built marketing assets. So it's not just course videos, because who wants to watch a million jillion course videos? Who has time for that? Not me, probably not you. But yeah, I templatized it. I made sure to give my students cold emailing templates that were just copy and paste. In that course, you get a pre-built writer website that is like a one-click install. So it takes the time and effort out of it. I built a niche finder AI bot to help people find their niche, pick their target clientele, and set their rates, all just by accessing that bot so they could get that information instantly. And I built out these things with people like myself in mind. So, even though chronic illness sucks, I really like that it gave me that level of empathy to go, okay, what do people really need? How can I help people who are short on time, whether it's because they have a chronic illness or they have kids or they're working multiple jobs or whatever? I am so excited to offer those things because I think it is so helpful and such a great way for me to make a positive impact and help people get results, even if they are in one of those situations where it's hard to spend a ton of time on something. They can just use the templatized things and get those results so much faster. Tip number 4, which may be a little bit controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. Make ChatGPT your BFF. Okay, so I work with a lot of freelance writers and copywriters. That's what most of, you guys are here on YouTube. What I'm not telling you right now is to go, make ChatGPT do all your client work for you. That is not something that I promote or approve of. What I'm saying is use ChatGPT to create those templates, to create those processes. Like if a client says something to you via email and you don't know what to say, or you're just like, oh my gosh, I know that I'm going to spend 30 minutes obsessively writing this email, making sure I was nice, including the right amount of emojis, including the right amount of exclamation points. Is this just me because I'm realizing I sound a little bit neurotic right now? Please comment below so I feel better about myself if you do this too. But yeah, ChatGPT can help you with those things that can take up a lot of brain power, a lot of our cognitive energy. So I really recommend using it. As far as client work, obviously I don't go to ChatGPT and go, write this landing page for my client. But what I do is I work on the project, I get it to a really solid draft that I look over, and I'll do things like ask ChatGPT to generate maybe like 10 to 20 additional headlines based on X, Y, Z, all this data, this and that, just to give me more ideas that I can kind of use and kind of mix and match, like Mad Libs. Is that what it's called? The little booklets we had, like any 90s kids here, where you just fill in a word or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of like that, where you can take the bits and pieces from what ChatGPT gives you and implement it within your own draft. That can be really, really helpful if you are a freelance writer or copywriter like myself. Tip number 5 is to track your time. Oh my gosh, when you start doing this, you're going to freak out about the way you are spending your time if you're anything like me, because I was so shocked to find out about how much time I was spending on tasks that I should not have been spending a lot of time on. And here's something else really, really important that helped me a lot when I started out running my online business. Think about this. Tasks will typically fill the time you allot for them. So give them the amount of time that you want them to take, okay? Like when I was a beginner freelance writer, for example, I was finding myself taking way too long on a first draft of a client blog post. So instead, what I did is I would set a timer for an hour and a half, and then that was the time I had to complete that draft. That made me so honed in on that project and so focused, and I found it to be true, again, that tasks will take the amount of time you allot for them. So really be intentional with your time in that way. Another example for me, the reason, this is a little awkward to talk about, but I'm going to do it anyway. The reason I've been so inconsistent here on YouTube is because every video before, back in the day, was taking me 12 to 15 hours to complete. Okay, I'm talking about ideation, keyword research, thumbnails, outlining, scripting, creating overlays, editing, uploading, the whole 9 yards, right? It was taking me 12 to 15 hours. Okay, so if I'm working 20 to 25 hours per week, I can't have the vast majority of my work time be one YouTube video every week, right? But by tracking that time, because I didn't realize how long it was taking before, by tracking that time and tracking how long each piece of the process was taking, it made me go, okay, let's eliminate these longer parts of the process. Let's streamline, let's simplify, which has now resulted in me doing a lot of videos like this one that are just me sitting here talking without all the fancy schmancy overlays and stuff. Or I've done a lot of Loom videos where I just screen record with my face as an overlay. It's super easy. It doesn't require all the hours and hours of editing, because editing is what was taking me the longest amount of time, and therefore why I wasn't able to publish YouTube videos regularly, which, by the way, I am working on, okay? So I'm really going to try to be more intentional about uploading to this channel. So definitely stick around for the videos coming up in the coming weeks. Now, as a side note on tracking time, like let's use that example of giving yourself an hour and a half to write a blog post. If you have a chronic illness that is exacerbated by like timelines, deadlines, or stress, I've definitely been there. Really, what I would encourage you to do is try to stay in tune with your body while you are working on these projects, because your body may have a hard stop time, right? For me, I can kind of feel when my body is going, okay, we got to take a break. We can't just work this hour and a half straight through. It's just not something that is healthy for me. I will stop 30 minutes in and then another 30 minutes in and take a break and do like a 3-minute breathing exercise, pet my dog, have a snack, something like that. So I really am definitely not saying push yourself to do these super short time frame bursts of work. You got to do what works for you, and listening to your body can help with that so much. Tip number 6, which is a huge one. If you are doing client work, qualify your leads. Please qualify your leads. This means on your website and your marketing materials, etc., you have clear information about what your price range is. You are setting that expectation up front, so you don't get these like lowballing people reaching out to you trying to make you do a 5-hour project for $100. That is not what you want, okay? So qualify your leads. You can do this by putting a rate range on your website. So for example, if you're like me, a freelance copywriter, put a rate range on your writing portfolio website to weed out people who cannot meet you in that range. You can also put a form on your writer website where they reach out to contact you, where it forces them to say what their budget is. Give them ranges to choose from, $500 or less, $500 to $1,000, $1,000 to $2,000, $2,000 plus. Give them some ranges so you know where they are at. That way you immediately know, without having to get on the phone with them and do all this crazy stuff, because that takes time. You immediately know whether or not they are qualified to work with you based on their budget. Now, if you're a total beginner to freelance writing, first of all, I have a free class for you on how to get to $5 to $8 grand a month, so check that out below. But if you're a beginner, qualifying leads may not be something that you want to do like day one. Obviously, you don't want these like crappy penny per word people reaching out to you, but you also may not be charging like $5,000 for a case study if it's your first ever one. I mean, you might, but most writers don't do that. So I'm not saying it's something you have to do immediately, but it's definitely something you will want to consider as you grow in your career. Tip number 7, define how much income you need to make and then work backwards and plan accordingly. Seriously, I want you right now, today, to write down your ideal yearly income amount, okay? Because only when you have a goal can you actually do the math needed to know what it's gonna take to achieve that goal. And I also wanna give you permission to make this whatever amount you want it to be, okay? Making an income that makes you feel safe and financially secure is not a bad thing. It's not something that we should be looking down on. It doesn't mean you're a bad person who only wants money. That is not the case at all. I feel like we all have our own stories and issues and shame and all this stuff around money based on our childhoods and society and the messaging we get from all these different places. But I am here to tell you, you deserve to take care of yourself. Especially when we are dealing with things like chronic illnesses. Please know that making an income that makes you feel financially safe and secure is a form of self-love and self-care, and that is what I want for you. So how can we map this out? How can we think about this, right? Well, think about it like this, and I'm really bad at math, so I might mess this up. Just forgive me if I do. Just pretend it didn't happen. But if I want to make $60,000 from a $500 service or product or whatever this year, let's say a digital product to make this simple, I need to sell 120 of those products throughout the year. Now, knowing that number, I can start to think of the ways I can do that. I can do 2 product launches, one in the spring and one in the fall, and those would have to bring in 60 customers each launch. So you see how starting to actually define your goals with a number, an actual value, can help you do the math and really make this real and start to help you plan this in a tangible and realistic way. This is so important. It's something I wish I would have done so much sooner in my online business. And especially since having a chronic illness, it has been so important to define that amount that I know I need to feel financially safe and secure and to take care of my health, which is so important. And if you have a chronic illness, that is so important for you as well. I also just want to say, like, if you are struggling with a chronic illness right now, please know that you are not alone. Please know that things can get better. The chronic illness I was dealing with in 2021 took about a year and a half, 2 years to resolve, but I don't take any medications or anything like that for it anymore. The one that I started dealing with in early 2024 has improved so much. Like, my quality of life was probably like 30% of a normal human back then, maybe even 20% at certain points, or less sometimes. Now I would say I'm in more of like a 60 to 70% of a normal human being range, right? So please know that certain things can improve. Obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not saying every single chronic illness is going to do this or that or whatever, but I just want you to have hope and know that you are not alone in this journey. I bet there are so many other people watching this video who are going through the same, if not really similar struggles and issues, and just like you, out here trying to still build the life that they want and make their dreams happen. I know firsthand how excruciating it can be. I was literally bedbound for so much of early 2024, and then I was housebound for so much of 2024, and now I have been able to make so much progress and so much improvement, and I am so incredibly grateful for that, and that is what I hope and wish for every single one of you watching this as well. Thank you so much for being here and watching this video. I hope it was really helpful. Again, it's not medical advice. I know I'm not a doctor or whatever, but I know for me, I would have wanted to see stories of people who dealt with chronic illnesses while building a business when I was, in my peak of going through that. So I hope this is helpful and encouraging for you. I would absolutely love to hear from you in the comments below, for you to be a part of our little friendly community that we have here on YouTube. So comment and let me know your thoughts on any and all of this. Thank you so much for watching, my friend. I will see you in the next video.